Indian nihilism, LOKAYATA philosophy, and the CARVAKAs. No God, no soul, no karma, no afterlife, no reincarnation. Many people believe that India was always spiritual and religious oriented, despite the fact that it had a large atheistic literature. 8 out of the 9 systems of Hindu philosophy are atheistic. They do not have a place for God. Only one of the 9 systems, Vedanta, has a place for God in it. In the 6th century, at the time of Mahavira and Buddha, there was in India a materialistic and atheistic school called Lokayata that rejected all metaphysical concepts like a creator, God, karma, soul, any accumulation of merit through the performance of religious rites. In other words, no heaven, no hell, no afterlife, and no reincarnation. Ajita Kesakambali was an ancient philosopher in the 6th century BC. He is considered to be the first known Indian materialist. He was probably a contemporary of Buddha and Mahavira. The basic elements of Buddha's teaching of no soul and no God were probably inspired from him. Ajita's arguments against God. Ajita says, do not believe in any God. There is no God. All gods are created by man. Mankind created its gods out of its fantasy. Is there only one maker of the world? When we look at a palace, we can see for ourselves how many different workers were needed to build it. Carpenters, stone cutters, masons. How could the world then be made just by one God alone? There is no need of any eternal self-caused creator God or maker of the world. The fire is hot, the water is cold. Refreshing cool is the breeze of the morning. From where does it come? From their own nature. A spiritual God without a body cannot be the author of any holy book, for he would not have any mouth to utter words, no voice to be heard. If we assume the law of karma, that God as a moral judge is unnecessary, because the law of karma would be enough. But if God enforces the consequences of actions, then he can do so without any karma. If, however, he is within the law of karma, then karma itself would enforce the consequences, and there would be no need of any God. God cannot be the enforcer of consequences, because an enforcer God would be either egoistic or altruistic. Now God's motives cannot be altruistic, because an altruistic God would not create a world so full of suffering. If his motives were egoistic, then God must have desires. Assuming that God has desires, that would contradict God's freedom of compulsion to act. If God still has unfulfilled desires, this would cause him to suffer pain and other similar human experiences. Furthermore, there is no proof of any existence of God. We cannot perceive him with any of our senses. All the various theological arguments cannot prove the existence of God. There is no God at all. He who invented God is a fool. He who preaches God is a liar. And he who worships God is an idiot. The spectacle of what is called religion, it almost always stands for blind belief, dogma, bigotry and superstition, exploitation, the preservation of power and the interests of the priests. A chitta says, while you are still alive, enjoy life. Live happily. Happiness is the highest goal in life. Don't waste your life with austerities. What is the aim of life? Sense enjoyment. Feed your senses. Fill your eyes with the images of beautiful women, beautiful men. Taste good food. Listen to soothing songs. Enjoy the touch of soft skin and lips. Enjoy your lover to the most, as long as he or she is young and attractive, and as long as your body is attractive. When you are old, then you can be charged. Don't remain poor, become rich, so you can get more pleasures. If you stay poor, you will be drowned in misery. Poverty is no ideal. Anybody can be poor. Pleasure is all that life can offer. There is nothing beyond it. There is no other world. When you die, you are dead. You are gone forever, and you will never come back. Therefore, enjoy life now. The mass of man considers wealth and the fulfillment of desire as the only ends of life. They deny the existence of anything beyond this world and follow only the doctrine of LOKAYATA. That means that only the material world, Loka, exists. The Buddhist rejects. Then they are like animals. That cannot be called the goal of man. What at the beginning seems to be pleasure turns into suffering. Give up all the pleasures which arise from contact with sensible objects, because they will end in pain. Life is suffering. We have to put an end to it by following the way of the Buddha. Chitta says, pleasures are always mixed with some kind of pain. Since it is impossible to have pleasure without pain, have the wisdom that knows how to enjoy pleasure as far as we can, and to avoid the pain which accompanies it. Rejecting pleasure out of fear of pain is foolish. Just as the man who wants to eat a fish takes the fish with its scales and bones, he eats the good parts and throws away the bones. And who will throw away the grains of rice because they are covered with husk and dust? Chitta says, don't say that you have a soul. When the body dies, you die with it. There is no soul that survives. Earth, water, fire, and air are the four elements. Consciousness, too, arises from these four elements. There is no soul apart from the body. The Buddha says, this kind of nihilism leads to hell. Chitta laughs. There is no hell, there is no heaven. So nihilism leads nowhere. Don't long for another world beyond this world. There is nothing beyond this world. Believe only in what the eye can see, and turn your back on what is beyond our knowledge. There is no other hell than mundane pain, caused by purely mundane causes as thoughts. And the only liberation is the dissolution of the body. There is no heaven, no final liberation, nor any soul in another world, nor do the religious actions and rituals produce any effect. Ascetics, mortifications of the flesh, smearing the body with ashes, all these actions were invented by those who are lacking knowledge and manliness. There is no happiness in a world beyond. And why? Because there is no beyond. There is only this world. There is no soul and no life after death. There is no world other than this world. Heaven, the liberation from the so-called cycle of birth and death, are only imaginary ideas. Everyone will die. No one can escape death, and no one will be reborn. Therefore, one should make the best of one's life, and live happily as long as one lives. Feed on good food, even so you run in debt. There is no merit in alms or sacrifice or offering. There is neither fruit nor result of good or evil deeds. Good and evil, charity and compassion are all irrelevant to man's fate. Do not believe in any afterlife. All that forms a person resides in his body. When the body is destroyed, after death, no consciousness remains. Don't fear hell or rebirth. There is no afterlife, no karma, no punishment in hell, and no reward in heaven. A human being is built up of four elements: earth, fire, water, and air. At death, his body dissolves into the primary elements. When he dies, the earthly in him returns to the earth, the fluid to the water, the heat to the fire, and the wind to the air. And his mental faculties pass into space. No matter what he had or had not done, nothing remains. The mourners take his dead body away. When they reach the burning ground, there his flesh ends in ashes, and his bones are bleached. When men say there is profit in the rites for the dead, it's an empty lie and a mere idle talk. Fools and wise alike, after death, they are no more. Priests have established all these ceremonies for the dead as a means of making money. All rituals are useless and bear no fruit anywhere. When once this body is rotten, how could it ever again return? If he who leaves the body and goes to another world, why does he not come back again to visit his loved ones? No holy book was ever revealed. No holy book is inspired by any god. Their authors lacked intelligence and honesty. Holy books suffer from untruths and self-contradiction. Holy books were invented by men and have no divine authority. Holy books are only the incoherent bubbling of liars. All the prayers and rites were invented by cunning priests to have power over the minds of ignorant people. The impostors who call themselves scholars contradict each other. Some scholars say only knowledge will liberate you, but other scholars say no, only action liberates you. Others say no, action can never free you. Action is bondage. As long as you act, you are creating new karma. Only right understanding can free you from old karma. Chastity and other such rules are laid down by clever weaklings. That you can make merit by giving gold and land to the priests or invitations to dinner are devised by monks with hungry stomachs. All rituals are useless. They're a waste of money and time. They are only useful as means, as a livelihood for the priests. If a beast slain as an offering in the rite will go to heaven, why then does not the sacrificer offer his own father so that he might go to heaven? If offerings to the dead produce gratification to those who have reached the land of the dead, why not make food offerings down below to feed those standing hungry on your doorsteps? There is no liberation. Liberation from what? From the body? Rather than a burden to our mind, regard the body as a wonderful instrument full of potentials. Without a body, you will not be able to enjoy life. Hold on to your body as long as it does not cause you much trouble. When it becomes too old, drop it. The only bondage is dependence on others. Therefore, independence from others is the true liberation. Achita says, I reject all supernaturalism, soul, otherworld, heaven, gods, etc. My philosophy is completely this worldly. Happiness is the highest end. Reject imaginary ends like attainment of heaven and moksha or nirvana. Don't run away from life just because pleasure in life is mixed with pain. This world is the only world we have. This life is the only life you have. Make the best of it. To speculate about the origin and the end of the world is a waste of time. To speculate about the purpose of life is a waste of time. These questions cannot be solved through scientific means. Furthermore, the speculation about such matters leads only to anxiety and frustration, which reduce pleasure and contentment. The universe probably came into existence by chance. It evolved as a result of a series of random events. Therefore, we don't need any doctrine of creation. Lokayata does not teach any ethic grounded in supernatural cosmologies. The only ethical duty one has is to seek one's own pleasure. Don't waste your youth with learning ethic rules and religious duties. You are not here on earth to fulfill any dharma, but only to enjoy life. Your own happiness takes priority over the happiness of others. Reject all ethical systems that demand duty or virtue imposed by a god. Regard pleasure for itself as the only good. The Buddhist objects. One's own happiness should not be the ultimate good. The Buddhist does not strive to get enlightenment for his own benefit. He does it to benefit all human beings. Akizur says, I reject this move away from pure egoism. An individual has no obligation to promote the welfare of society, and should only do so if it ultimately benefits himself as well. LOKAYATA has always been scorned by religious leaders in India. But the spiritualistic schools like Chinese and Buddhism, Hinduism, have also materialistic tendencies in their own systems. The Buddhist shouts, no, materialism is a heresy. It denies all spirituality. You materialists are seen by the religious masses as heretics. You offend their piety promoted by most religious sects. Akizur says, I deny the existence of such fantasies as God or spiritual realm, which the eyes cannot see. I am not concerned with doctrines that cannot be verified. The world itself is real, not a dream. All things come into existence through a mixture of elements. Even human consciousness is a material construct. There is no consciousness apart from the body. For the manifestation of consciousness, a body is needed. Our CARVAKA school has been condemned by virtually all schools of Indian philosophy, not merely for its rejection of the supernatural, but probably more so for its rejection of anything beyond egoistic ethics. The Buddhist, you have strayed away from the path to enlightenment. Akizur, there is no such thing as enlightenment. The Buddhist, you are ignorant of both metaphysical and moral truths. Akizur, there are no metaphysical truths. These are only religious fantasies. The Buddhist, because you are so few, your sort of ignorance is not a grave threat to the greater good of society, but rather to the individual who is bereft of spiritual and moral knowledge. But Akizur says that the man becomes independent is enough. Forget about a world beyond. Dignify this world. It is not an illusion, not Maya. And elevate the science to a level that helps man to make his life easier and enjoyable. Don't love any God. Love the truth. That is enough.